Hey everyone, Rachel here with Things We Wear. Just making sure my mic works, looks like it is. So today we're going to continue the discussion about armhole, bust, arm size, sleeve cap, bicep grade. This is a really tricky area, and it's probably the area, in my opinion, that often fits people the worst and is most obviously wrong on some sizes, especially sizes on the extreme ends, particularly on the larger sizes, actually. So before I go any further, I just wanted to tell you about, I did create a Patreon page, which I will show you really quickly. 1 second. Okay, here it is. So here I am. Here's the Things We Wear pattern making community. It's just $5 a month right now. I just have one tier. And the idea is that I'm going to provide additional specific pointed videos in response to your questions here, and hopefully provide some sort of community so we can all share pattern making thoughts and questions. I really want to aim this Patreon at people who are aspiring pattern makers, home sewers, and maybe people who are already industry pattern makers but just haven't worked digitally before. I think there's a lot of forms of pattern making that have sadly been lost in the last couple years as schools have discontinued pattern making programs, and a lot of fashion companies that are trying to be more financially svelte have maybe discontinued training or software, and I think it's really sad, because at the heart of everything and at the heart of something that fits people well is a really good pattern maker. And it feels very weird to me that in an age when we're talking so much about inclusive sizing, it seems like pattern making is not part of that discussion for some reason. So I really I'm going to continue to make content that is free on YouTube, of course, but I also want to supplement that learning and create a community and try to bring pattern making back. I once heard on Marketplace on NPR that it was a dying art, and I was like, no, it's not. I mean, it might be, but I don't think it should be, and there's so many reasons why it's more important now than ever. So yeah, I encourage you to join if you'd like to, and if you just go to patreon.com/thingswewear, I also will have a link to it in the details, the description of this video. And I also, as part of your membership, you'll be invited to a private Reddit group so we can continue to discuss things, and you can post stuff there and I can answer questions, and you can, be a little more free with your thoughts and not have to worry about, YouTube and the whole world seeing everything that you're writing. All right, so back to the question at hand, back to armhole grade. Today we're going to look more thoroughly at armhole, bust, and sleeve cap grade. So this is the pattern that I had started last video. I think that was about a week ago, and I'm going to discuss this using ASTM a little further. And again, if you're interested in purchasing ASTM, let me bring up that website. Okay, here it is. It's astm.org, and of course it has all sorts of and lots of languages. It can be a little overwhelming, but body measurements for apparel sizing. So if you work in the United States, ASTM is a great place to start when you're looking at body measurements. I know I mentioned this in other videos. They have it for all sites. Wow, look at this, for mature big men type. They really have a lot of specific, wow, I've never even looked at all of these things. So this is pretty cool. Yeah, what I love about ASTM, and maybe I don't agree with everything, it can be a little bit old-fashioned in the way it categorizes clothing into, quote-unquote missy clothing, which is regular sizing, and then there's petite and plus. I know we're moving into an era where we're trying to use maybe more thoughtful ways of naming those clothing terms. You can see they call it husky boys, which is another term I think we've kind of moved away from in the last few years. I think that there's some flaws with ASTM, of course, but ASTM is what most brands in the United States are basing their sizing and grading off of, and then each brand is tailoring it to their demographic and apparel needs. But this is a great place to start. And so if you want to understand industry standard grading, start off with with ASTM. And they do update it pretty frequently. See, this one was last updated 2021. I don't know much about where they get their data from, and I don't know how different the data is, every year. My data is from 2017, I believe. I haven't noticed or heard that there's any major changes, but I will do some digging and let you guys know when I have a chance to look into that. Okay, so I have snipped some of the data from my ASTM chart. I don't want to share the whole thing because, of course, it is paid for, and I want to respect that, but I do want to share the learning from it, which I think is important. So I'm just going to create my own chart here. So let's break it into the sizes that ASTM is giving us. Oop, doesn't want to do 00. I have to update this format to be not a number. It's going to be text. There we go. Okay, so 00, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. And I'm really sorry for those of you who aren't in the United States. I know these sizes are very US specific and that every country has kind of different ways of dealing with these sizes, but I'll also talk about alpha sizing, which is small, medium, large, and hopefully that's a little bit more universal. But when we're looking at ASTM data, because they do break it up into numeric sizing, that's what this is called. I do have to respect what they use, but let's break it up into alpha sizing. So I'm going to say the green is small. This is medium. This is, oh, I need more colors. Purple, large. I think that this might be, see, this is actually where alpha sizing gets tricky when we're talking about dividing up typical numeric sizing, because what do you do with these two sizes? Is this extra large and then this is 2x? Maybe I'll call that extra large and I'll call this double XL. I think I actually prefer, this is kind of a debate in the apparel community right now, but I prefer the 1x, 2x sizing. To me, that implies that some sort of revision has happened at a certain point, that 4, 6, 8, 10, okay, you're assuming that size 10 is based off of whatever the base size is. Let's say it's size 4. But if you get to size 16 and it's called a 1x, now I'm going to assume that that 1x was actually reviewed on a human being and that alterations were made to the style, to the fit, to the darts, to the style lines, to make it proportionally better for someone who's a size 16. So I like that. It's just sort of a signifier to me too. And I definitely like it more than calling something a double XL. I feel like that's, I don't know, using words like small or large, it's all relative to whatever else you believe is your small and large, right? What I like about number sizing, like 1x, 2x, is it's not quite so judgmental, I guess. Not so inherently, it doesn't come with a descriptor, it just is, which is kind of nice. I'd love, if you have opinions on how you think sizing should be called, I would love to hear your thoughts, actually. It is a pretty contentious area out there. So I'm going to just call this extra, extra small. This is going to be extra small. This is going to be small. This is going to be medium. This is going to be large, XL, and 2XL. Okay, so that gives you kind of a guideline. This would be typically how most brands would break up these numeric sizes into alpha sizing. And when I say most brands, I mean typical brands you're going to see at the mall. Like if you look up J. Crew or Banana Republic, this is going to be pretty close to their sizing structure. Their 4-6 is a small, I believe, and the same with the Gap and with Banana, with many places. If you move into sometimes more high tier, kind of expensive brands, sometimes their small is more like a 2-4, it's a little bit smaller, and a 6-8 is considered a medium. And then other brands that are, depending on the demographic that it's aimed towards, you might see some like an opposite direction where a small is more of a 6-8. So this is what you're naming each numeric size with these corresponding alpha sizes. Depends on what the demographic of your brand is, but this is what I found is pretty typical in the US market. Okay, so let's talk about bust. And I snipped all the bust measurements here because I'm kind of curious. There's upper bust, upper chest. Oh, I don't have an under bust. Oh, I do have an under bust. Okay, actually, let's check out all those measurements. So let's do upper bust and then bust, and then under bust. And then we're also going to do arm side, and then we're going to do bicep, which is also what this underarm girth is. And elbow, I don't think we need to worry about for right now. That's not, who knows if you even have an elbow. Maybe it's short sleeve, so we don't need to worry about that right now. Okay, so upper bust for size 00. This is going to be a little hard for me to do. I might have to move this over. So many lines. Okay, I'm going to pause you guys and fill this in so you don't have to watch me do this. All right, I'm back. I'm glad I paused you for that because that actually took a lot of time. It was surprisingly hard. All right, so let me save this and let's start evaluating. So I'm going to actually insert lines under each one of these so we can evaluate the graded increments. So when we talk about grading, there is a few ways that we can talk about it. So we can talk about graded increments, which is the difference between each size. So from 35 to 35.875, that's 7/8 difference. And then there's the graded spec. This is the actual measurements of each size. So that's what we're looking at here. So when you do size analysis, it's kind of hard to look at these numbers because what's really important is how the numbers are changing, right? Like the actual measurements don't matter so much. What we really need to know is how they change, because we're making one pattern and then we're creating the change between that pattern and figuring out those differences so that we can accommodate those differences as best we can. So let's say that size 6 is our base size. So I'm just gonna like highlight that size. No, it's not quite what I know. Nah. Okay, we're just gonna say, I'm just gonna write it here. Cool. So you guys know this is our base size. And then, so this is gonna be the 0.000. So as we go down from the base size, it's gonna get smaller, and as we go up, it's gonna get larger. And if you've never built a POM page or a graded spec page, this is basically what you're doing, which is you're providing the base size, and then you're providing those graded increments in each direction. And it's not a cumulative total, like it's each size compared to the previous size. So from here and then from here to here, if that makes sense. You'll see when I start to do this. So what I love about Excel is that you can do really great analysis, and you can make formulas. So what this cell is going to be this minus this. Okay, 0.875. And actually, wonder if this will work if I keep pasting it. Yep, see, it adjusted, so this is 1 inch and this is 0.5. So I just pressed, and I might be able to just copy paste, and it's showing me that difference. I'm gonna go one past this, which might be kind of interesting. Let's see if this works. I want to see the percent change. So let's see here. What would be the percent change? So it'd be this, let's see here, it'd be 100%, I have to think this through, minus, and then minus this divided by this. Let's see if that worked. Okay, 2.5% less. That makes sense to me, 2.53% less, okay. And then let's keep going. Uh-oh, how come that one didn't work? Oh, I see. Oh, is that moving in the wrong direction? Okay, 1 second, because this might, yep, I have this, this is a little bit off here. So this should be this minus this. There we go. So now I can just drag that formula. There we go. So that's fixed. And then this should be, it should be this divided by the previous. One second, I need to think about this for a moment. I figured it out. Okay, so what it actually should be is this percentage minus 100, because this is going to be a positive percentage, minus 100%. So it's growing up. And then this should be This should be, again, minus 100 because we actually would see a negative percentage in this direction. Does that make sense? So, so it's shrinking each time. So if I took this pattern, let's say, and I applied minus 2.5% shrink to the bust, that would give me a size 4. So this is just interesting. What I like about this is you can see the actual difference between sizes, because one of the things that's a little complicated to discuss, but when, let's say, each bust grade, let's say each time we went down in size, we went down an inch and then we went up an inch. That means as you get into the larger sizes, 1 inch comparatively to 43 inches is a smaller percentage of that compared to 1 inch of 31 inches. So if we actually want to adjust the pattern in a way that is the same proportion each time, percentages are actually a better way to go, because they're a better way of making sure that each time the pattern is changing by what makes sense. Because one of the things you might find is as you go down in sizes, it's like, well, yeah, you're losing an inch, but if the measurement is already small, that's kind of a dramatic change. And as you go up in sizes, it's a less dramatic change. So I think it's interesting to look at this, and you can see that there's some inequities that 2.5 seems to be the place that we're hovering at for the mid-range sizes, and then it actually increases more than the 2%. So even though, well, I don't disagree with increasing this actual number, maybe this should be an inch rather than 7/8. It looks like that inch and then that 3/8, this 1 5/8. I mean, this is a way bigger amount comparatively to that bust than we're seeing on these smaller sizes. And I don't really think that's fair. That's giving this person who is a size 16 and 18 fewer options. Maybe what makes sense is just to offer more sizes, but keep that percentage, that 2.5%. And then you might be able to offer more people clothes that actually fit them. Wouldn't that be novel? This is one thing that really bugs me about inclusive sizing, if I hadn't already said this, is that, like, it's one thing to offer, let's say, size 20 or size 24. But the reality is that what size 24 looks like is very different on different people. And this is true for any size. Although I would say as you move up in sizes, because you might be a size, you might have a very large bust, but a smaller waist. And that might mean that you have to buy size 20, but then your waist is maybe a size 14, or vice versa. And so as you go up in sizes, those differentials can be bigger. And so I think the thing that annoys me about this, like, oh, we're inclusive now, I'd love to have more information. I would love brands to provide what it is they're doing to make that size inclusive. Are they just tacking it on? Are they just doing this? They're like, just make it as 1.5 inches bigger and it'll fit somebody. Or that's always the joke we had at one of my jobs is, you know, when you had a style that was kind of rough, and then you'd say, well, hopefully it'll fit somebody. That's not the place you want to be, right? You want to make it fit someone, you know, and many people. You want people to feel included. And so just offering a size doesn't mean that it's inherently inclusive. And I think I just want to say that because if there's some people out there who are a size 20 or a size 24 and they're ordering that size and it doesn't look good on them, you know, sometimes when things don't look good on you, it can be very personal. Like I remember, you know, as I was like getting older and kind of like getting used to my adult body and feeling like very upset when things didn't fit me the way they used to. And it's like I felt very rejected by each skirt that didn't look good on me, you know, or top or whatever it was. And I think I don't want people to feel that way. It's not your fault. You know, it's probably that they didn't really do their homework. All right, so let's keep going with this analysis because I think this is pretty interesting. I wonder if I can just copy and paste this. Sometimes it updates the formula for me. Let's see here. Yep, great. Okay, so we can see a similar differential, but as you can see, when we go up in sizes, it's actually getting even more percent-wise bigger. In some ways, I do agree with this. As you tend to go up in sizes, you tend to be more extreme in the bust, typically, not always. And as you go smaller in sizes, you tend to be less extreme in the bust to waist ratio. But of course, nobody's the same. So that's a very general thing to say. Let's look at under bust. And just so you have an idea, upper bust is that portion of your body that's kind of like if you were to measure yourself right at the base of your armpit across your chest. So often people have kind of a hollow there, and some people are more hollow there than others, especially petite people I find tend to be a little bit more small right there. And it's important because sometimes you'll find with women, they'll have gaping at their front neckline. And I think a lot of that is just that it's too generous in their front upper bust area comparatively to their bust. So they have an excess of fabric above. So that's what the upper bust. And the under bust is important because that's about how big your bust is compared to basically your waist and the rest of your body. So this is an important thing to evaluate. So let's try copy and paste. Great, that works. And you can see that difference is also getting bigger as we go up in sizes. That kind of makes sense to me, I suppose, as bust gets it more extreme. I'm not sure. I'll have to think about if I fully agree with that. And let's see if we can just copy and paste the rest of these guys. So we can see. Interesting. So you can see, actually, I think this is the most interesting thing about arm side. And this illustrates better than my babbling last time, trying to explain it. You can see the percent-wise going upwards is not nearly as big. 1.5 here, all of these specs are about 2 to 3%, growth or shrinkage on either side, and then it gets more. Here it's only 1.5. So, as we get larger on the larger end, it's like comparatively the difference between these numbers is greater. So let's actually talk about that more specifically. I'm going to copy and paste this over here. Okay, and then I'm going to put this over here. Uh-oh. Not what I wanted to do. Thank you. Okay, there we go. So what I really want to look at is what is the difference between, did I copy bust? Uh-oh, I copied the wrong spec. I want to copy bust. There we go. Cool. I want to see the difference between these numbers. What's the difference between the bust and the arm size? And then does that difference get greater as you go up in size? So I'm going to put it down here. Difference between bust and arm size. I'm going to call it armhole. That's kind of more of a typical use or at least in, I guess, American fashion, we talk about armholes a lot. Okay, so difference would be, so I'm going to go with the bigger measurement. So bust minus arm side. So there it is, 16-inch difference. Bring that across. So as you can see, the difference gets greater. It's 10-inch difference. See, so now it's 26 inches. And let's see about a percentage, because this is also interesting. So let me think about this. Would it be the arm size? Yeah, I'm going to look at what percent the arm size is of the bust. So this divided by this, I'm going to call that a percentage format. I hope you guys like Excel, because Excel is amazing. You can do so much good work with it. Oh, see, now I didn't expect this, but this is actually really great to see. So the difference between the arm size and the bust is remaining at about 44%. Although, as we go up in size, okay, so there is a slight difference. So on the smaller sizes, the arm size measurement is 46% of the bust. And as we go up in sizes, it's only 42%. So that is like, that's a couple percentage difference. It's like 4% difference. And that's really kind of that difference that I'm talking about. So as we go up in size, comparatively, our bust gets larger compared to our armhole. And that's where you have that gapey armhole issue on those larger sizes, because usually grading does not accommodate for this. And part of that is that it's very difficult to grade to accommodate for this, because to make your armhole smaller in relation to the bust, it basically means that you need to make a pattern or a balance change. It's hard to build that into the grading unless you have a dart or something that you can use to create that smaller armhole. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, So now that we've got all that, let's grade our sleeve cap. I hope that made sense. And if you are part of the Patreon, maybe I'll give you guys this if that's interesting to you. Let me know. Join the Patreon. Let me know if you're interested in these random little analysis charts. I'm happy to share. Okay, so let's evaluate if I did my bust grade here the way that I probably should have. So I did alpha sizing for this grading, so that does make it a little more complicated. So now I guess I kind of need to break this up into alpha sizing. So I'm just going to, let's see here. All right, I'm just going to talk about bust and arm size and bicep. Okay, those are the big ones that we need to discuss for alpha sizing. And I'm just going to add another line in here for just the alpha sizing. So alpha sizing from small to extra small, I'm just going to put it here. So it's going to be these combined. So it's going to be, well, actually, you would often make an alpha size. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. You'd often make the alpha size to the larger part of the alpha because, you know, you don't want someone who's a size 2 who should be an extra small but can't actually fit into it. So you always want to do the top end of your numeric grouping when you create alpha sizing. So it'd be this plus this. Whoops, and I don't want it to be a percentage. I want it to be a number. Okay, here we go. So the difference between extra small and small in the bust is 2.25. And here it's just going to be the same. Oh, actually it'll count for both of those together. This plus this. Again, not. We're going to have to just format all of these cells. Okay, let me just do that quickly. Format, number. Okay, and then from small to medium, so this is going to be, let's see here, so it's just going to be, oh, that's right, I'm sorry. Top end of the sizes. This plus this, and then this one will be this plus this, and this one will be this plus this, and this one will just equal this. Okay, so those are the graded increments for my bust, and then for my arm side, I'm going to do basically the same thing, so I can probably copy and paste. Great, it updated, and also for my bicep. Okay, those are the big specs that I need. So now let's talk about this. I wonder if I can, one second, I'm going to arrange my page so we can see both. All right, we're arranged now, so now I can work on this. So let's evaluate the bust grade really quickly here. So I'm just grading the bust at these points, at the underarm points, and actually I'm going to turn off, yeah, that confuses me. I do not like that. I'm going to flip it. This is the direction I like it. Oh, that's the back, but this is still going to be the same grade. So here's my size small. All right, so let's talk about the Y, which is up. This is going to be the width. So of my bust, so we're going to start with the extra small on the bust. Now remember, this is a half spec, it's a half pattern, and then it's also, we're discussing this grade is a total measurement, right? So we have to divide it by 4, and actually maybe I should do that. Insert, and equals this divided by 4, and divided by 4, divided by 4, because that's what you're going to do on each size. And this, I'm just going to divide by 2. And I'll explain that later. I like making it red. That's kind of helpful. Divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, and 2. And bicep, the same, I'm going to divide by 2. Okay, I love some formulas. Let's add some space here because I do not like looking at too many things close together. That's very confusing. Okay, so now we have that. So that means that from small to extra small, we're going to go minus a ½ inch about. So I think this is okay. And from here, it's also a ½ inch. So these are actually golden. So now as we go up in size, ½ inch, that's good. And then see 3/4. And then this is where it gets a little funky because 16/18, they're saying it's about 7/8. And here, this one's only a ½ inch. So if you add together these two together, it's about 1.5 inches divided by 2, 3/4. So I think calling these 3/4 is a good place to be. So when I was talking last week about industry standard bust grade being a 2-inch grade, about a 2-inch grade difference. See, it's a little bit different each size, but it's about 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches. And then as we go from medium to large, 3 inches, large to extra large, 3 inches. This is a 2-inch, but if you divided them equally, it's about 3 inches each size breakdown. So you'll often see that a lot of sizes are graded like this. I could be really specific to these sizes, but honestly, you know, 1/8 of an inch here or there, it's not going to make or break the fit. And it might make things complicated. So not that I'm opposed to complicated grading, but for this instance, we're just going to keep it simple. And this is basically what a lot of brands do too. So I just want to be a little bit closer to what most brands are doing. So this is actually already correct. So what I did last time was correct based on just my memory of what I thought it was. And you can see I changed the X grading. So as we go up in size, the armhole is dropping. The reason for that, I have mixed feelings about that. But part of that is because we need to make the armhole, well, I might have to tweak this. Traditionally, you do drop the armhole 1/4 inch per size, and part of that is providing extra circumference for that arm side, and also so that it sews into the sleeve cap, because the sleeve cap is also getting bigger. And the other reason is it's not really like that your arm side depth is getting bigger, but when you think about someone who has a more curvy arm, you know, if you have a straighter arm, it's just less of a curve from the top of the sleeve cap down. And if you have a curvier arm, you're going to have more of a curve there. So there is actually more length there, and your armhole could be tight and like pulling in. So that is why we add depth to armhole, but this might be a little overkill. This is just like typically what I've seen, but it's not really a spec that is measured in ASTM per se. I think the only thing you could say is close to it is if we looked at the grade of from like neck, high point shoulder to bust apex, and that might be really where this grade is coming from, because that is often about 3/8, this difference from high point shoulder to bust. As you go down in sizes, often the bust is lowering about 3/8 and then raising about 3/8. So that armhole kind of in relation sometimes gets lower, because otherwise you have a high armhole compared to a low bust, and that might cause some pulling or some weirdness. I actually think that's an area that could be researched further, and TBD on that. And here's my armhole, or my sleeve cap. You can see this is pretty basic. I didn't even notch it. So I'm not even really showing which side's front or back, but I'm going to say this one is a little bit more scoopy. So this is my front and this is my back. But the grading would be the same either way. So in the Y direction, let's look at our bicep. In the Y direction, okay, -1/2, -1/2. And then, I should be looking at the half of that, because this is the total spec. So we're only moving half of it here. Okay, so, this is minus, how do I get in there? Minus point, wait. Yep, I'm going to go in the minus direction, 0.25, minus 0.25. And as we go larger in sizes, it's going to get bigger. But you know what? I messed something up, because on the from small to medium, it actually gets 0.375. 0.375. I'm just going to average it to, 0.375 each time. This is one thing I feel a little bit confused about, because it's not quite aligning. I would want to not do this big jump. I want this to correlate with this. So see how the bust, it's like 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches, then 3 inches here on the size large. I would kind of want it to be, or what I'm used to is like half inch, half inch, half inch, and then you go to 3/4, 3/4, 3/4. A little weird to see this difference here, but I'm gonna do it and see what it looks like. And then I can just copy and paste. Great. And I'm just gonna do the same here, just so it looks nice and nested. Although for sleeve opening, you wouldn't necessarily need to grade the sleeve opening the same as the bicep. Depending on where it hit you on the arm, like if, for instance, if it's hitting you at your elbow or your wrists don't grow that much in size comparatively to a bicep, so you wouldn't need it to grow the same amount. But we can talk about that in another video. This is just a lot to cover. All right, so now here is the question. You can see right now what's interesting is this cap height, it's getting bigger, and I don't know. Yeah, you can see that in the x-axis it's going up 1/4 and down like 3/16. It looks like this is something that Tuka just automatically did just to maintain the shape. And you'll see that this is, when you talk to people who are graders, there is an emphasis on maintaining shapes, and that's probably why Tuka has been programmed this way, so that it maintains shapes whenever possible. It is nice because you don't have to over dictate things, and when in doubt, yes, I would say maintain a shape. You want your shapes to be consistent across the board in all sizes so that the style lines, the proportions look comparable. But on the flip side, I would say that's a little bit of a myth, because what works on a size extra small doesn't always work the same way on a size extra large. So proportionately, it makes sense to a degree, and then I think you have to reevaluate. And the reason I would say that, like, for instance, see how the sleeve opening, is getting the same amount bigger as the bust. Yes, technically it looks great, but do people's wrists grow this much? No, they don't. So you'd almost have zero grade here, or maybe very minimal grade at the sleeve opening if this was a long sleeve. And so then if you looked at the extra large compared to the extra small, that overall shape would be quite different. But that's okay, because that's how people's bodies are shaped. They're not shaped like gingerbread men, they're shaped like people. So you can't put a small person inside of a big person. That's just not how it works. The way that our bodies change, it's not always proportional, or across the board, it's not the same amount. So again, stuff we can get into. But the thing that I want to look at actually is how these measurements align. Okay, so I did measure the armhole. I'm going to do a thing where this is a Tuka thing, so you can create these measurement charts. And it's very handy, actually. Measure, quantity, I can't remember if I made quantity 1. Okay, let's see if that works. Yes, and then I'm going to, I realized that I've divided these up into front and back armholes, so I'm just going to call this armhole, measure quantity 1, apply, and then this one will be armhole, measure quantity 1, apply. Okay, so let's see here, measurements. Ooh, okay, I think it's duplicating. Let me just fix this. So this is the thing, is if, okay, I do have cut 1, and how many do I have here? Cut 1, okay. So because this is on the mirror, it's actually measuring both of my armholes. So, oh, how did that happen? Where's my size small? There we go. Armhole, it's actually going to be half. H, apply, and the same over here. H. Save, yes. Okay, now let's do report measurements. Okay. All right, so first off, my armhole is way too small for my, or my armhole is way too large for my sleeve cap. But this is the challenge. So as you can see right now, let's say they were the same, but let's just look at the difference. On my size small, it's a 6-inch difference. Here, also, it's about a 6.5-inch difference. By the time we get to extra, extra large, now we're looking at about a 3.5-inch difference. So this is a challenge when it comes to sleeve caps because your bicep is making the sleeve get bigger comparatively to the armhole. So if you wanted to maintain this is where you kind of have to tweak the pattern a little bit and adjust this amount that the depth is dropping or staying the same. So I'm just going to adjust this to make it the same. So view, show high grading, and I'm just going to, so right now it's 14, so I want to make it like 19. I think that's what I said. Okay, so let's make this actually, let's check the sleeve cap length. Whoop, no, that's not what I want. From here to there, sleeve cap height in the X direction, it's 4 inches. That's pretty short for a small, I mean, that's not bad. I go back and forth. I like to see something closer to 5, personally, on a size small. People have their own opinions on that, but I'm just going to add an inch. Okay. I know that looks pretty funky, but I'm also going to go out. Let's add 0.5. Let's add minus 0.5. Cool. I know this is really weird shape, but just trying to get it closer. Measurements. So size small, 16. This is 20. We got a long ways to go. Okay, I might have to pick this up at next video because it's going on a little long. But I think this gets to the point of why we drop the armhole, because so basically it's because the bicep is coming out and needs to get bigger. It makes the sleeve cap bigger, and so as a result, we have to figure out how to make the armhole accommodate the sleeve cap, right? And one way that we could adjust this, I could make this a grading point. And then I can say, let's see here, let's turn on the grading, view, show high grading. Okay, so I can say, right now it's going like, let's say I just made it an 1/8 of an inch. And minus, I think probably 1/8 is closer to what you might need. I do think that, yes, you do get more length on larger sizes and you do kind of need more sleeve cap. It'd be a little funky if your sleeve cap remained the same height but then grew widthwise. But I don't know that you need a full 1/4 or 3/8 per size. That seems a little bit excessive. So let's see if that made the difference closer. Let's see here. So right now we're at a 4-inch difference, approximately. Extra, extra small, that's about a 4-inch difference. Great. And here we're at like a 2-inch difference. Okay, so we're still struggling, but it seems like maybe we're getting better-ish. Ish. So maybe what I would do to make it more on par, either I can make this grade a 1/16. This is something I do want to try to do more research into sleeve cap height. Most graders I know who grade cap height, it's really for graders, and I think this is like the way that traditional, whoops, that's not what I wanted, 0.0625, not 0.625. The way that traditional graders work in the fashion industry, they typically are not pattern makers, and their whole goal is just to make the lines match and to follow and to hit specs. They're trying to hit measurements and they're trying to make the lines match. They're not overly thinking about, hey, does it make sense if the cap gets bigger or smaller? They're just trying to make geometrical sense. So traditionally, I think that caps do grade in height quite a bit, but I don't know if they should. That's something that I think is, to me, is still kind of up to, I need to dig more into that. So now we're at 1.5 difference. Okay, it didn't really seem to make that much of a difference if the cap height grew. So that means that, let's say on the larger sizes, I'm dropping 375. And then here, which one's the size small? There we go. All right, so that is getting us closer. So now you can see armhole compared to sleeve cap. So 21 to 19. Is that even better? Let's see here. Yeah, so this is about a 4-inch difference. Man, this is tough. This is why grading is hard. Of course, it's going to be impossible to control all of these things. And one thing I would say is, in general, that differential is often different. But yeah, as we go up in size, in this case, the sleeve cap is closer, the difference. So if these were matching, let's say this one was 20 and this one was 20, as we went up in sizes, the sleeve cap length would be now like 1.5 inches bigger than the armhole. That might or might not be an issue. It depends on what kind of style you're doing and what kind of fit. If you want ease in your sleeve cap, then it makes sense that on your larger sizes you would want more ease because there's more curvature. If you're doing a knit garment, and often with knit garments I make my sleeve cap smaller than my armhole because otherwise it looks like there's ruching. I would never want my sleeve cap to be bigger than my armhole. That's like a huge no-no on a knit. And so this would be something I'd be concerned about, and I would play with this until I got it so that we didn't have that issue. And as you can see, actually on the smaller sizes, the proportion is not so bad. Like this goes down 1 inch, and so does this from here to there. So the proportions are maintaining the same in this area. And it's really as we're going up in sizes that it becomes an issue. So I may have to play with this next time. I'm getting tired of talking. I think my voice is going. But I hope this helped answer some questions for all of you out there. And please feel free to comment, send me an email if you have specific questions. I would be happy and love to continue to talk about these important subjects that nobody seems to talk about, but I feel like are just very topical. And of course, if you'd like to join me on Patreon, the link is down below in the description. And I will continue to post ad-free content on Patreon, so you can watch all these videos there and also ask me direct questions. And hopefully I'll do some, once I get a few people in there, I can do some group lessons or maybe some Q&As. We'll see what you guys want to do, and then I will take it from there, and hopefully we can create a cool little pattern making community. Woo! All right, well, thanks so much for watching today, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!